Tiffany Chung, your go-to for all things marketing, mindset, and manifestation. I grew my online business from 0 to beyond 6 figures in 8 months. My purpose is to empower women to step into the highest, most aligned versions of themselves. If you are ready to take charge of your life, learn how to design a wildly successful business, and leave limiting beliefs behind, you've come to the right place. You will learn the actionable tips and step-by-step strategies on money, manifestation, and social media. It's time to step into your role as boss, to raise your vibration and tap into your unlimited potential today. Welcome to the Social Reset Podcast. Hi, everyone. We have a really special episode for you today. On the podcast, I am interviewing Portia, who is my Magicmind student. She is a friend and someone whose work I've also admired for years as a sex and relationship coach. We talk about sexual creativity, erotic expression, embodiments, empowerments as a woman. It is such a beautiful conversation that we have. And we tie also into our expression in our business. How you do one thing is how you do everything. That's what I always say if you've been listening to this podcast, and I share it with my students all the time. So your wealth and how you attract wealth also relates to your sex life and the beauty, the embodiment, the ability to experience deep pleasure in your sensuality and sexuality. And that also leads to how you show up as a leader, as a CEO, how you express yourself online also relates to how you express yourself and how you allow yourself to be held or set boundaries inside your interpersonal communication and relationships. And that also affects the way that you show up in your day to day and how you take care of yourself and your own self pleasure and your own magnetism and your energy. It all loops into one another and one another and one another. And so we talk about business, we talk about sex, we talk about sensuality, we talk about being embodied. We have such an incredible conversation, and I can't wait for you all to dive in and get a taste of Jo. And she also shares some of her experience being inside Magicmind and her own journey of unboxing herself, coming home to herself, which is such a beautiful, it's such a beautiful journey to witness. And hearing her share about it has been so incredible. So I can't wait for you all to listen through to this entire episode. Please tag me at tiffanychung.co and Jo at I am Jo Portia, and let us know what you think. Feel free to share this on your stories. And also trigger warnings. We do talk about sexual assault and some of our own experiences around sexual harassment, unwanted sexual attention in this episode. So just letting you all know in case that's a sensitive topic. All right, let's dive into the episode. Thank you so much for being here. All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Social Reset Podcast. I have a very special guest with me here today. We have Jo. Jo is someone that I have actually been following on Instagram for, I would say, like years at this point. I've always been in connection with your stuff, your work, and it's just been really beautiful. We connected in person sometime, I believe it was last year. And we developed a friendship, and now Jo is also in Magicmind. So she's in my mastermind community with all of those incredible women that I love. And I thought it would be amazing to have her on the podcast. She's got an incredible story to share. She has moved through so much in her life. We have some similarities, both being single moms and just being Asian women, all about magic and power and sex and sensuality. So I'm really excited to just feature her voice and her story on the episode today. So, Jo, would you like to introduce yourself to all of us, please?
Yeah, my name is Jo. I'm a globally known sex and relationship coach. My focus is on helping people enhance their sensual creativity and their erotic expression. I work with couples and women, and it has been such a delight to be in this space of work, of really helping people to not only reinvent new ways of loving, but also to refine and to enhance and elevate navigate their love experiences.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love that so much. And I'd love for you to share with the listeners, like, what helped you get to this point in your life as a somatic sex and relationship coach, as a tantra teacher, right? A speaker, all of these things that which you embody so deeply. Walk us through a little bit of that story as to how you got where you are.
Oh my God, it's so funny with this story because I always feel like, where do I begin? Because when I
Mhm.
think about the beginning of the story, how it even started, it started like long time ago when I was 8 years old. I was molested by my uncle, and that was a story that I never really imagined myself like having to transform or transmute over time. But that's really where the
Mm,
seed planted in. And I remember being, a young kid, feeling so confused after that moment because I was like, something happened that wasn't right, and trying to tell my parents that there was something that happened in this particular situation, and I knew in my body that that wasn't right for me. And I think from then on, it was this constant questioning of rebelliousness around everything that I was growing up against. I was raised in a Filipino Catholic family. My parents are immigrants. I'm a daughter of immigrants and the first generation Filipino American. And growing up in my family, I was the black sheep. I'm the
mhm.
youngest kid born in New York. My parents raised me out here. I have an older brother and sister who were raised in the Philippines. I didn't get to meet till I was 10 and 12. So my entire upbringing was such a shock when it came to family. Fast forward years later, my first career was a hairstylist. I became a hairstylist at 19 years old. And that was the first time that I would say I was really stepping into myself in rebelling against the what is supposed to be, right? Like growing up Filipino American, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you who are listening can relate to this. Your parents did not want you to be in anything that was creative or artistic. They
Yeah.
wanted you to be either a nurse, a doctor, marry an engineer, get into some technology, whatever the case is. Like, find a good job that has health insurance and do the whole American dream type of thing. And for me, I was
Yeah.
like, no, fuck that. Like, it just never really, really turned me on in that way. And plus, like when I was in high school, I found myself just falling in love with creativity. Photography was one of the things that I found love with. Hair was one of the things that I found so much expression in. So my first career being a hairstylist, it was like super perfect for me because I was like obsessed at the time with relationships, because growing up, none of the relationships I grew up around were ones that I felt like I could really lean on as good
Mhm.
examples of what it meant to be in relationship. My parents
Mm.
never my parents never like showed what good intimacy or rich intimacy was like. I mean, I remember growing up, my parents never even wanted to kiss each other in front of us, or they were very like, ooh, like, just rejecting each other's presence. And to me, I was like, this isn't what love is supposed to be like, nor is
Yeah.
love supposed to be like the things that you see in the media, right? Like,
Right.
here are the examples that were laid out for me, and none of them felt right to me. So I
Mm.
was a hairstylist for about 10 years. And then afterwards, I went into tech and started working for a company called Visco as director of community. And there, paired between my wellness journey, because in 2013, I was just burnt out, overwhelmed, two kids, married, and doing everything that you're supposed to do as a woman, right? Like going down the path of good girl and patriarchy, which is get the job, get married, have kids, get the whole career. I mean, like I did the fucking thing that my parents were like, you should go do the thing. And I was like, holy shit, I'm doing the thing that my parents like told me to do.
Yeah.
Even though like on the outside it was like, well, it's an art and technology career. Like this is gonna be really amazing and really incredible. I found myself really disconnected with my body in 2013, just out of shape, unhealthy, overwhelmed, anxious. And so my wellness journey really started this journey into getting into my body in a way that I could have never expected before. And so in that time, Go Fit Joe was a brand that I birthed, and Go Fit Joe became an incredible success. I want to say almost like an overnight success, but we know that nothing is ever really truly overnight.
Mhm.
But within several years, I was getting named top wellness coach by Ariana Huffington for Thrive Global. I was being published in lots of different media, working with brands such as Nike, Adidas, all the things. And at some point in 2018, after all of the successes, after all of everything that you're supposed to be doing as a 30-year-old, I was like, wait a second, I don't know when the last time I had a really incredible orgasm that was like for me. I don't know when the
Yeah.
last time I felt pleasure in my body that was mine. And pleasure that wasn't like, okay, I'm working out and doing all the fitness things and the wellness things, and I'm doing
Mhm.
all the like things that you're supposed to be doing, checking off all the boxes. But I was like, what brings my body pleasure? What excites me? What delights me? What does sex mean to me outside of the conditioning that society tells me that my sexuality is only designed or meant for my partner's pleasure? And so it was that journey where literally I was like, I'm 35 years old. I have no idea what turns me on. And in addition to that, my eldest daughter was 15 at the time. They came home with a permission slip to do sex ed. And I was like, holy shit, my kid's about to go down this like path of having sex education in high school. I have no idea what an empowered sexual narrative actually means to me. How the fuck am I going to be a resource to my kids? Especially
Mm.
kids who are, people of color, kids who are second generation, kids who are growing up in a world where TikTok, Instagram, the internet has just 10x the availability of information that's in their hands. And here I
Mm.
am, a woman who is supposed to be this like self-love coach, empowerment coach, all the things. And I'm like, I have zero ideas how to navigate a conversation where I could be proud of saying, yeah, this is what feels good to you, or this is how you should go about these conversations, or this is what consent is supposed to look like.
Mm.
And so this pleasure journey of mine was not just for me, but it was essentially for my kids. Like, how can I be that woman that is going to say, yeah, hell yeah, if that sexually empowers you, or if that's deeply empowering for you, go for it, when I can't even do that for myself. And so one fine afternoon, I was like, well, the kids are in school. I ain't got shit to do. I'm gonna go and like lock the door, put on some music, light a candle, and figure out what brings my body pleasure. And so it was this afternoon where coconut oil was part of the mix, feathers was part of the mix, silk ties were part of the mix. And I literally was like, I am just gonna have a sandbox day with myself and figure
Yeah.
out like what delights me outside of like having to be performative, or having to have like performative sex, or like having to like feel like my partner was the one who's supposed to be responsible for my pleasure.
Mm.
And so it was in that afternoon where I was like, oh my God, this is what self-love feels like. This is what loving yourself can feel like, when you're trying to love yourself through the shame, the rejection, all of the things that I feel like most of us women have gone through, at least in some point of our lives, with our bodies, whether it's
Mhm.
changed or not through parenthood, or whether, you've gone through life and you're like, holy fuck, I've neglected this one part of my life, this aspect of my sexuality. And part of that also for me was like in 2018, I had been maybe like 5 years into my wellness journey. And I thought I'd healed so much of the body image issues that I had at the time, and they were still popping up for me. I mean, I did all the things through the Go Fit Joe journey. I competed in fitness competitions also. So I was like a 29-year-old who never worked out before. All of a sudden, within like 3.5 years of my fitness journey, I was competing on stage for fucking like bikini competitions. And then,
Yeah.
like I had realized at 2018, wow, the little tinges, those little tiny threads of my body image issues is tied to something even deeper. And it was tied to the experiences that I had in my childhood, where I was molested by my uncle and also like raped by my ex-boyfriend at 16. I hadn't realized how much sexual trauma was really impacting the way I viewed
Mm.
myself. And I thought, through all the years of therapy, that that was something that was resolved, but hadn't known that that was really tied to how I show up in love, and how I show up in a relationship, and how I show up erotically in my connections and my relationships as well. So that's kind of how the journey started. And then in 2021, as I started sharing from 2028 to 2021, I started sharing little tidbits of my journey online about my sexual empowerment journey of like all the discoveries, right? You're like, oh shit, I'm finding out all these things. Here's all the lubes I like. Here's all the toys I like. Like it was just like one of those, like, I'm just learning about my body. And, people started coming to me and my coaching started to shift a little bit and people started asking me, how do I heal this aspect of myself? I have similar stories to you, but I have no idea how to go through that healing process. And I was like, I am not equipped actually to navigate this. So let me go get educated. And in 2021, I went to go get my Vita Tantric Sex and Relationship Coach through a program designed by Layla Martin, who's one of the leading um, pleasure priestesses, as you would call her, in our industry. And this is where I am today, 2.5 years later, navigating the world of coaching in this wonderful space of orgasms and ecstasy.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And yeah, and thank you for your honesty and your bravery and just sharing how we truly, as women, right, as humans, as sovereign individuals, we get to truly alchemize the pain and the shadows and all of the things that we've experienced that that once defined us, and we get to shift their narrative on that. We get to transform that and connect to our deepest purpose in that way, and we have very similar journeys in the fact that I also started out as a blogger and a content creator, and it was all just like, I mean, it wasn't necessarily surface level. Like, I was sharing a lot of my life, a lot of my who I was, but I was still figuring out who I was at the same time, and through that we get to experience these moments of like, wait, what do I wanna teach my daughter about this? How do I wanna articulate this? What legacy do I wanna leave behind, right? It can't just be this, and I think as women, we're very good at, like, constantly evolving and constantly upgrading and, like, remaking of ourselves over and over, right? I always say, like, our business is an evolution of our soul's greatest purpose, and it isn't just one thing, and it isn't just two things, it is a multi hyphenate, dimensional, beautiful evolution and unveiling of things over time, over and over and over. And I can see that, like, through every step of your journey, you've trusted, you've listened to your intuition, you've allowed certain parts of your life to be shifted into, well, how can I serve other people? What do I want to teach my daughters, right? As a mother, as a woman. I think it's so, yeah, I think that's so beautiful. And you're also deeply spiritual too. So I'd love to hear how you kinda link the sexuality, the sensuality, being connected to your body, right? And like you mentioned, you had gone to therapy and you'd done the things, right, of like the personal development journey, but yet there were still things somatically stuck inside your energetic body that hadn't been cleared, that hadn't been moved, that you were still holding on, as you were moving through relationships and, intimacy and divorce and a lot of things that you've moved through in your adult life. How does spirituality and sexuality and empowerment, how does all of that loop together for you, right? And I know you utilize it as like a tool for healing, a tool for liberation, right? Women's empowerment. How do you view that and how do you feel like that can be infused together in someone's journey?
Yeah. So for me, like, I guess one thing is I remember when I got into the world of just reclaiming my sexuality, it was also like in my spiritual, right around that crux of like my spiritual journey too. And I was like, sex cannot just be an act of doing. Like, it cannot just be the mechanics of it all. For me, this is an artistry. Like, there was something deep
Mm,
inside of me that was like, sex is an art of doing, not an act. Sex is an art of being, not an act of doing. Like, there was something
yeah.
so deep and resonant about that. And I also felt that was something that was in my deepest truth, even in the beginning of that sexual empowerment journey, because I never really connected to the idea of like, let's just have sex a shit ton of times. Let's just do this and like have as many orgasms as possible. Even though I'm like, fuck that. Hell yeah, have as many orgasms as possible. In my
Yes.
household, actually, the orgasm gap is pretty close. Like I think I like 10x my partner in orgasms versus his. But anyways, um, there was always a part of me that like felt that sexuality could be a portal to something different. And in
Mm.
2019, my partner and we were rendezvousing for our like 1 year anniversary. This is like a really fun story to share. We were rendezvousing at a Airbnb. He had been traveling around the world. I had just been coming back home to Aruba from Aruba, and we see each other at the time. We were seeing each other every 6 weeks, so you can imagine the sexual tension that was like built up
Mhm.
from not seeing each other. Every single time we would go to an Airbnb, we would get noise complaints. So I am highly expressive, which also like I was never that. So like my
Mm.
transformation even in my sexual journey is kind of wild because I used to be the woman who would like cover herself with t-shirts, lights off, never want to be seen. And now I'm like, let me express myself. Let me fully liberate my body in every experience possible.
Oh, so good. Yes.
So so we were at this Airbnb and of course we were having sex and we are making love, and we would get like messages in our Airbnb, like messages and just like, so like I'm all about your guys' sex life, but like people are trying to sleep in this house. Was like what the Airbnb host was saying. And I was like, shit, right? So one morning my partner goes downstairs and he's like making us breakfast. He happens to run into the Airbnb host. We find out that she's a Tantra teacher. And I have been wanting to explore the realms of Tantra ever since I started my sexual empowerment journey in 2018, because I just knew
Mm.
for the first time that I had experienced touching myself and giving myself an orgasm that was like mind blowing. I was
Yeah.
like, dude, there has to be more. Like, there's got to be something here because I feel so like aligned in my body. That first orgasm I gave myself, I remember pussy, heart, and throat was like all lit up. And so I was like, there's got to be
Yes.
some sort of spiritual component to this.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
at the time, I'd heard about Tantra before. And I'd heard about Tantra from both perspectives, both the spiritual system and the ancient wisdom teachings that it is, and also what the Western sees Tantra to be, which is all about sex. And
Yeah.
so to be at this Airbnb where the host was a Tantra teacher, I was like, holy fuck, this is going to be amazing, right? And so, after they had their conversation, I came downstairs to have breakfast, totally embarrassed as fuck because here I am meeting this
Oh.
teacher, and she's like, she heard me all night long. And so she knew me and she definitely knows his name. Um, and she offered us a full day VIP day experience to do a whole like tantric five senses awakening ritual
Wow.
and practice as a 1 year anniversary gift with plant medicine involved. So there's plant medicine involved in this,
Oh
and it
my
was just
gosh.
the most incredible experience ever to be able to experience your sensuality in that way, opening up each five senses from taste, touch, smell, sight. I mean, like everything. It's funny because I'm thinking about it now and I'm just thinking about the day that we had literally in the woods in this whole like magical experience, and how just incredible it was to be outside making love to my partner and also experiencing this whole full body awakening through your
Mm.
five senses from each of the chakras all the way through. And so the interlinking between it all is that in a lot of ancient practices, a lot of the Eastern ancient practices, especially in Tantra, Tantra believes that the body is a vehicle to awakening itself, and that sex is actually a portal to that. Sex itself and orgasm is actually one of the most highest peak frequencies in the body that we can experience. So there is
Yes.
nothing actually more, there is nothing that we can experience in life that allows us to feel enlightenment in our physical bodies except for an orgasm. So you want to be enlightened, like orgasms are one of the most powerful ways to be there and to experience that
Yeah.
state of bliss and surrender and ecstasy. And I think I want to say
Mm.
the frequency, the actual frequency of an orgasm, I believe is like 987. I can't be quoted completely accurately on that, but I do know that the frequency of that is pretty high. And not the
Yeah.
orgasms that you're like forcing out between your legs, but the orgasms that you're really fully allowing your body to surrender
The
to.
waves,
The
yes.
waves, the
Oh
the
my
waves, but
god.
even the like full body experience where you can almost use your entire body as an erogenous zone, which is like really, really incredible and powerful
Mm.
to get to that state. And
Yeah.
so, because when you're accessing and when you're allowing your body to be, and one of my philosophies that I like to say is like your body is an instrument of power, pleasure, and boundless potential. And so when you're
Mm.
allowing your body to be an instrument and you're playing your instrument as if, let's say, you are Jimi Hendrix and you're playing a guitar, like the guitar is not being played by Jimi Hendrix, like the guitar is playing Jimi Hendrix and vice versa. It all becomes one. And so
Yes.
when you can
Yeah.
get to a state where your body's in that way, it allows you to have almost this like really um aligned like spiritual resonance between mind, body, and energy. And sexual
Mm.
energy is one of the most refined energies that we can actually generate within ourselves. So if that is
Yeah.
something that you can lean into as an expression, yet also a truth, it can be like, I don't know, like just magic to experience.
It is. It is pure magic. I love the way that you put that into words, like, don't we all just love the way that Jo speaks? Like, everything that comes out of her mouth is poetry. And yeah, absolutely. It's funny for me because like my personal story was like I started, self-pleasuring at a very young age before I even understood what it was. I was just so drawn to like certain parts of my body and certain experiences and sensations before I even knew the word like masturbation, before I knew the word pleasure. I was very young. I believe it was probably like 3rd or 4th grade, like so young. Like I was just exploring my body and I'd always been very sexual, very sensual. I was very like, I was naturally very unapologetic, but I grew up in a very religious household and I went to a private Christian school. So my teenage years and my early adulthood was a lot of like suppressing and restricting and constricting and being really small and being that good, obedient Christian Chinese girl that would bring home good grades to her parents and that would, like vow to stay a virgin until marriage and all these things. So I made my sexuality so wrong,
Mm,
but then I would still have this like magnetic kind of, I mean, you're also a teenager, just like a horny teenager, right? And so every time I would make myself wrong, I would make myself bad. I was like, in these like little situationships and relationships, back-to-back relationships with guys. I was like known for that. I could like never be single, which is really funny because I've been single for about like 4 or 5 years now. But I could, like, never be single when I was younger, so I was always, like I always had, like, someone on the hook and then someone after that, and I'll, like, break up and immediately be in another relationship and, like, a lot of, like, flirtatious and I wasn't able to, like, navigate this, like, very powerful kinda sexual energy that I had until much later when I had my spiritual awakenings and for you, it sounds like you kind of it all came through around the same time and one led to the next and it all like how you do one thing is how you do everything, I say
mhm,
that a lot when it comes to business too. So when I had my spiritual awakenings and I left religion, I left the church and I built my own kind of personal relationship with God, the universe, source, energy, I also had a sexual awakening. I was like, "Wait, everyone, I'm pansexual." And
mhm,
I've never been able to say that out loud without fearing, condemnation and judgment and going to hell and people saying like the most vile things to me. And then owning that in my body and owning my sexuality and, not just my sexual orientation, but like my sexual nature, right? And then
mhm,
beginning to like explore that and be sexually explorative. And And yeah, when you're talking about like orgasms being that highest frequency, that was one of the things that I really played with years ago when I had this kind of sexual and spiritual awakening was sex magic and orgasmic manifestation. You know, it's like when you are in that highest frequency, you are able to bring in and call in a all of your desires in this state, and then it doesn't just be something you do in the bedroom alone, it's something that you get to bring in with a partner or partners, you know, as I've explored in my own journey, a lot of it has also been done solo, but then a lot of it has also been, like, you bring that energy into your day to day, you know? It isn't just like, "Okay, sexy time," and then, like, work and business, and it's like, how can these all intertwine where, like, before you go on live, you're, like, energetically, magnetically, sensually turned on, you know? How can you let that be the way that you lead your business and your offerings and messaging and copy? I mean, a lot of this we talk about in Magic Mind in terms of like the energetics, right? It isn't just like, here's a tactic and here's a strategy and go and do the thing and get the results. It's like, no, how are you feeling?
Mhm.
How is this being felt in your body? How are you in alignment with this? Right. So yeah, I'd love to hear your experience in Magic Mind with this embodiment matched with your own, you know, powerful sexuality and what you know, and how you bring that into your business and your business expression, messaging, and calling in soul aligned clients.
Well, I've had a journey, as you know, in Magic Mind. I've had a journey of coming back home to myself. So
Yeah.
I'm in my work, we do a lot of archetypal play because I think archetypes are
Yes.
really useful to
Love
help
them.
help somebody understand the subconscious parts, especially when it comes to trauma integration and emotional healing, and a lot of the work that I do around attachment wounds, right? Early attachment science and all of that stuff. So in one of my practices for myself, and for me, self-pleasure isn't just about masturbation or getting off. Self-pleasure is oftentimes connecting to myself on a spiritual level, but also
Yeah.
connecting to my body. I deeply believe that like everything that we need is within us already. It's just a matter of deconditioning and removing all the layers of
Yep.
shit that we've piled on top of it, right?
Yes.
And like I said earlier, the most beautiful thing is that sexual energy is so pure and it's so refined.
Mm.
And when used, I hate the word used when it comes to sexuality or sexual energy. So when communed with sexual energy, when you're communing with
Mhm.
sexual energy in a powerful and intentional way, it can do a lot to integrate certain things and to bring in certain powers into
Yes.
yourself, and not necessarily always into, but maybe revealing certain powers within yourself. And so in one of my practices, birthed this identity for me, which I like to refer to as the bougie bruja. And the bougie
Yes.
bruja was somebody that was birthed in one of my practices, and I remember, like, I remember waking up after my practice, or, like, getting up out of my bed after, like, having multiple orgasms, like, I'm the fucking bougie bruja, right? Like, it didn't make any sense, but I was
I
like,
love it.
"Holy shit, I am the bougie bruja. Okay, this blends everything that I've wanted to do when it comes to work and spirituality in a way that,
Mm.
like, makes fucking sense," right? Bougie,
Yeah.
we know what the fucking bougie is. Like, this bitch loves luxury. This bitch loves,
Yeah.
like, her sensuality. She loves to be indulgent in everything, and bruja, for me, was almost like a reclamation of the word witch, because I remember being called bruja all the time when I was younger.
Mm.
And my even my dad would say things like, "Oh, para kang bruja," which means like, "Oh, you're like a witch," when I was a kid, and I'm like, "What's wrong with that?" I had no idea
Yeah.
that that was negative or something was wrong with that. So
Right.
bougie bruja was the archetype that birthed my sex and relationship coaching. And at some point through the last couple of years, I felt like I had to whitewash myself and water myself down, because I really wanted clients who, my clientele already are CEOs, they're entrepreneurs, they're founders, they're people who are chief of staff at like at global companies like Google, right? Like these are currently right now my clients and the roster that I have. And at some point I was like, okay, maybe I need to step away from the bougie bruja and become something different so that I could get more clients like them.
Mm,
Because that's what I was taught to believe, or that's how
yeah.
I totally was like thinking at some point in the
Yep.
last 18 months. And in Magic Mind, a lot of the conversations that you and I have been coming back home to the bougie bruja. And I'm just like, I find sometimes moment to moment there's resistance in that. And there are times
Yeah.
where like I find her just like, bitch, you better come home. You better come back into this energy and find a
Mm,
way to reconnect with me because I'm going to guide you through this, right? And so, how sexuality, how power, how sensuality all moves through my business when it is my business.
yeah.
One sensual creativity and erotic expression, pure erotic expression is what I do. It is the superpower that I help people find and cultivate within themselves, and not like erotic liberation that maybe the patriarchy has co-opted to us, which means to just fuck everybody that you want, but your authentic erotic expression, which is just true to you, right? Like it's
Mm,
how you move, how you fuck, how
yep.
you make love, how you show up in this world. And so in my business, what I have come to, especially in the last few months, is how do I refine this? I've been spending so much time reinventing myself that now I'm like, how do I refine my business as a sex and relationship coach? And I started to find ways to weave with more eloquence, and like opulence is the word that I like to use, but I've been weaving a lot of more eloquence and like opulence into my messaging and my copy, because what I learned through Magic Mind and through your wonderful evaluations, which I've been going back with some of my clients and asking them about, is that the
Yeah.
thing that they really fucking loved was the bougie bruja.
Yeah.
They were like, just by the way, we I really magnetize towards you because you are the bougie bruja. I love that. And so ancient ancient ritual is a huge proponent of my work. I open up every conversation and every call with a ritual space. I drop them into ritual space because I teach each and every single one of my clients, as well as my couples, how important it is to go to a place where nothing needs to make sense. That's the beauty about ritual space. And so I use ritual space not only in my business when I'm crafting, let's say, my work to drop into that original essence, the bougie bruja essence, but I also like teach it to my clients because I have them also tap into their original essence. Either whether they're working with me as an individual, or when it comes to couples, I'm like, let's tap into the original essence of your relationship, which usually it's essentially love, right? But it's based
Yeah.
on their definition as a couple. And for my clients, it's based on their definition of what they feel like is their original essence. And so coming back home to that has been a journey, to say the least. But it's also been really powerful because what I have learned is that people are going to be magnetized to you when you're authentically who you are. Period.
Yeah.
Doesn't fucking matter. Doesn't matter. You can have all of the you can have all the right things, but really I'm seeing and learning that people come to, especially if you're a service-based business, they come to you because of a story. And usually your story has something that relates to a story that they have had an experience of.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I for years I thought I was broken because I couldn't have an orgasm. For years, I thought as a mother, I am not allowed to be sensual or sexual because,
Yeah.
well, God forbid that I'm sensual or sexual because then I'm not a quote unquote good mom according to society. And
Mhm.
even like now, like when I think about when I think about like what's on my website for photos, there are all these boudoir photos of me versus like these professional me in a suit thing, which I did for a little bit. And every time I looked at my website, I was like, this isn't me.
Yeah.
This isn't me. Like I'm somebody who values intimacy and connection and self-expression.
Mhm.
And I love being in my nightgowns and I love being in just beauty. Beauty is always a part of my expression. So why is that not something that's like on my website? Why is that not something in my social media? Why is it not something that I'm showcasing as part of the journey and the evolution of what brought me here? And
Yeah.
so in Magic Mind, you've really helped me to, come back home to the things that I thought um, were not going to get me to the next chapter,
Mm.
which is the witchy side of me, which is the, aspect of me that is a little too much for most people. And fuck it, like I'm not here for most people. I'm here for the people that really want to experience themselves as a masterpiece. That's who I'm here
Yeah.
for. I'm here for those people who want to experience their sexuality as a integrated part of their life, not just a part that they do in the bedroom, but something that is a part of their whole lived experience. Not because they want to be like, all right, I'm trying to have sex like every day, 24/7, but because they no longer want to feel ashamed or they no longer want to reject this part of them, but they want to be like, you know what? Fuck yeah, I'm a mom. I am proud to be a sexually empowered woman. That does not make me wrong. That does not make me somebody that you need to put on like, a stick and burn at the cross or anything like that. Like that
Yeah.
makes me whole as a
Yeah.
person. And because I get to be this whole integrated ass woman, I also get to lead a next generation that can look at me and say, that is that is also 1000% okay to be in.
Mm.
One of the truths that I think about, when I think about like I could not be a sexually empowered woman and teach my kids was that like my youngest is pansexual too, and both of my kids are non-binary. Their pronouns are
Yeah.
they them, they them. And I remember talking to my eldest one and I said, I just want you to know that sex can exist without love and love can exist without sex. And I wish that was something someone told me when I was
Mm.
younger, because then all the confusion I had after all of the sexual trauma that I experienced would have probably been a little bit less rocky to experience, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been self-abandoning myself in relationships so much
Mhm.
if somebody told me that. And so, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Sex is weaved into all of my work. And I think it's
Yeah.
important because when you understand what turns you on in life, not just in the
Mm.
bedroom, but in life, you get to understand deeply what turns you on in business. And when you
Yep.
can understand the subtleties in that, because I think in business, it's going to be really subtle, right? Because most
Yeah.
of business, at least in the early stages, is going to be hell. And it's also going to feel like a honeymoon stage because most businesses, you go through the same you go through the same stages in your business as you will in any conscious relationship. So in the
Mhm.
first couple of years, you're experiencing the honeymoon phase. You're projecting all of your hopes, dreams, aspirations to that relationship or partner. You're doing the same thing with your business as well, right? And then you get maybe around 3 to 5 years into your business and you're like, oh shit, things are getting real. It's where compassionate relating starts to happen. That's the same as the stages conscious relationship. It's the second one. And so you get to start to see all of the shadows, all of your attachment wounds, all of the
Yeah.
ways in which your traumas bubble up for you as an identity, as a person. You experience that in business and you experience that in a relationship. And then
Mhm.
the final stage of conscious relationship is where we experience like true love, where love is an expression of everything, right? Like fights can be an expression of love. You hating your partner is an expression of love. You falling in love with your partner over and over again in that stage is an expression of love. And it's the same in business when you start to see all of the ups and downs that you experience in business in that relationship. And you're like, I'm in it with you. We're here together. We're going in deep. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I think sex and sensuality are important aspects of business, and they're really, really important aspects of leadership because sexual feelings is the same as like your creativity feeling, your feelings of creativity. And
Mhm.
I love this quote from Esther Perel that I recently discovered, which is creative thinking is erotic thinking. And
Mm.
I've been really exploring the connection between that and leadership, because with leadership and sexual feelings, like, your sexual feelings tell you when something is about to be birthed, when you want to create something, when you want to do something. It's your impulses. And
Yeah.
those are feelings you can't deny when you are a leader in a business or a CEO, because those
Mhm.
impulses tell
Right.
you something. They're very important.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes to all of that. It's so beautiful. And absolutely, it's like, especially as women, we're such creative portals and we birth things all the time, even if we decide not to have biological children, right? Like we are constantly in a mode of creation. And, I talk about this in Magic Mind a lot is the spirit of our business and spirit of our offers, like birthing offers and seeing them as our art, right? Letting them evolve, letting our business evolve with us, right? Gone are the days where we just like do the logical, linear, profitable thing and stick to it, even though we are outgrowing it, even though it is no longer the current version of who we are. It's like, we get to expand over and over and over and over and over and have these multitudes of versions of who we are and bring that into this space. And I love everything that you shared about your original essence. Like I love that term. That's so beautiful. In Magic Mind, we call it like true self, truest identity, like who you are at your core, right? Like coming home to yourself. And you mentioned like ritualistic things. Like I remember being in your backyard fucking burning shit under the moon and twerking. And like that's who you are. That is the essence. That is your original essence, right? And I remember you sharing like, connecting as a family, right? And then having an altar for that and for you and your partner, when you do those check-ins, it's like that is the essence of who you are. And I think that especially as women of color, you know, we look at we feel all of these kind of innate urges and intuitive nudges of who we are. We feel it so deeply in our bodies, but yet, and this is the experience of so many women of color is we kind of look around and we decide, is this okay? Is this safe to be this person? Is it okay for me to fully express as this person? Will I be hired as this person? Will I be accepted as this person? Right? We still have that innate desire to not be outcast from the tribe, to not be, burnt at the stake, especially if we have those like not just like generational, but like past life wounds as well, right? That's all stored in our bodies, because of from our past lives, from epigenetics. And so we don't want to be the one that's outcast from the tribe. We'll do anything to fit in, right? I'm already having these conversations with my 9-year-old daughter who's getting remarks from other girls in class that are like, I don't like that outfit. Why did you wear this with that? Why do you say that? Like, and then her wanting to like kind of water down and us having these conversations of like the only person who has to like what you wear and what you do and who you are is you. It is okay if they don't understand that, right? And it's so healing. And I'm sure you have these experiences as well. It's so healing to be able to pass this on and have these conversations with our children that we didn't have growing up. And our parents did the best that they could. And they had, limited resources, especially as immigrants coming to a whole new country, learning a whole new language. And we get to be that embodiment of like, oh, this is also healing my inner child and it's also healing my actual child, which is so beautiful, and being our truest self, our original essence of who we came here to be isn't just for us. It's for all the people that are meant to be served by our distinct magic,
Mhm.
and the more we water that down, like, for who? For who? It's like they're already, I believe, just like we have soulmate friends and partners in romantic settings. We also have soulmate clients that we're just meant to connect with and that we're meant to be with, that are meant to experience our work, and sometimes vice versa, right? Like I've worked with some of my clients who have become my students and then vice versa. It's like we get to experience each other's magic in such a deep and profound and beautiful way that if that was watered down, if that was just boxed in, it wouldn't have that same effect, And I went on live earlier last week, and I was talking about how, like, I'll get people who respond to my reels and are just like adamantly against, like, do not think I should be saying the things I'm saying, should not think that I should not be who I am, thinking what I think, right? And then on the other hand, on the other spectrum, I have people who are saying, Tiffany, thank you for your work. Thank you for what you're doing. This is changing my entire narrative around business and leadership and sensuality and being a woman of color, being a mom, being a single mom, all of these things, right? And I think it's because when we are in our magic and we're so clear about it, where there's no, to be clear is to be kind, right? And when we are clear about it, we let people decide, this is for me. I resonate. Yes. Or no, this is not for me. Or I'm not ready for that yet.
Mm,
Right.
mhm,
And I think when we are in our essence, when we're in our magic, we let people make these sovereign decisions. It's just like when I talk about selling, it's like I don't ever feel the need to convince somebody because my sales are client led. Like they lead themselves through the process. I trust them to make the best decision for themselves. So I never have to convince anyone because I'm only talking to the people who are a yes, who are a match to my work, right? And having that relationship where two people are a fuck yes, there's nothing more powerful than that. There's nothing more powerful than someone who's coming in, making a sovereign decision for themselves and investment in themselves and their business. It's not even about me, it's about the transformation they take themselves through. And here are the details. Here's the energy of the container. Let me share and express this with all of you through my radiance, through my magnetism, and someone receiving that and going, oh, I'm a yes. Let me in. I'm in. Right. And I know you've experienced that with your couples resigning, one on
mm.
one clients resigning, attracting new people into your space who are just like, they get a taste of the bougie bruja, right? It isn't that whitewashed, watered down, boxed in version of Joe. It is Joe in her original essence. Right. And I think, that's one of the biggest takeaways from this episode for anyone listening. Like, who are you at your
Mm,
core energetically? Is there still parts of you? Are there still parts of you that are desiring to show up in boxed in, compartmentalized, disconnected from your intuition? Because you feel like that's what you should be doing to be hired, liked, worthy, etc. Right? And how can you come back home to yourself? Like I feel like, the container of Magic Mind is shifting. It's shifting from 6 months to 12 months. The energetics are deepening into purpose work, legacy work, coming home to yourself, who you are, and expressing that into your work. And yeah, last thing I'll share here is like I just did a mini course, multi six sales magic. Our first call was awakening your inner magnetism. I led them through. I led them through this kind of technique, I guess you can call it, this framework where, your number one, your step one priority is how can you be in your most magnetic state, your most turned on state, your most electrified state, right? And then everything you do is to ensure that boundaries, structures, delegation, having a team, asking for help, right? Having support, having structure, having the sacred masculine in your business come in and support that so that you can be in your most magnetic state. And then inevitably, what happens when you're in your most magnetic state? Oh, you express that with the world. You're automatically turned on. You're automatically, oh, let me go on live in this energy. Let me connect with someone. Someone hops on the live and they're like, oh my gosh, I need to be a part of this. I need to join their offer. They can go from zero to highest ticket offer in one day, right? And then naturally you do that work that's so beautiful, original, magic, goddess, purpose work. And then your client, inevitably, what happens, they naturally evolve, they naturally expand. And then what happens after that is the results they have. An entire circle, complete circle effect where I'm then inspired because my clients are inspired and they're doing the work and they're evolving. And then I show up in my magnetism. And it's this circle, cyclical effect when we prioritize our pleasure. When we prioritize being in our magnetism energetically, sexually, spiritually, physically, mentally, emotionally, in
all of
all
it.
of the
Mhm.
ways, That is what builds a thriving business based on your evolution. This is beyond logic and just following how to strategies, right? This is the energetics informing the strategy, all from the core of your truest essence.
Mm, mm. So delicious. So delicious. It's so funny because it reminds me of like in my work, one of the things that I always work on with my clients in the beginning is if you are the visionary leader of love in your life and your community, who are you? Who are you being? Like we always work on the being before we work on the doing because it's the being, it's the embodiment of who you are that gets to lead
Mm-hmm.
everything in life,
Yeah.
leads everything in life, right? And so it's interesting, I think, we live in a culture where we're taught that the best place to be in is in our heads because we're intellectually driven here. But the reality is, it's our body that holds the most sacred wisdom, not our minds. Our
Yeah.
minds are the ones that create all the stories. Our minds are the ones that's going to create all of the negative limiting beliefs to everything because it's trying to keep us safe. As you like to beautifully say, the brain likes to do brain
Mm-hmm.
things, right? But the body is the thing that's going to lead us through the way. And also as a person, as a human being who has a body, your body
Yeah.
is the is your body should be the safest place to be, except that unfortunately our society has not made it safe to be in our body. And so
Mm-hmm.
being in your body, when you can cultivate that amount of safety in your body, you can actually have the most transformative experience here on earth because your body's getting to lead everything that you do.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I feel like that is the basis of both of our work for you with your clients and community through sex and relationships and somatics. And for me, in that evolution of your business and offers and selling and messaging, not from the doing first, but from who are you? How is that connected to your purpose? How is that in alignment with your values and what you want to bring into the world and your magic? Yeah, that's so
Mm,
beautiful. I would love to end before you share where can we connect with you and all of the good things to experience your magic. Where you mentioned, your parents' relationship and seeing this experience of relationships. And I think that your current life and what you've created in your 3D reality is such a beautiful testament to quantum leaping, to transmutation, to
mm,
alchemy of a reality that can completely shift within a matter of years. And I share a lot of that within my story as well. But I'd love for you to share and do some bragging of your life now compared to what you've moved through as a teenager, as a
mm.
young adult, and what you've created and called into your reality. Let's hear it.
Well, I mean, I think the biggest thing that I can think of in this moment, and I can always brag. Bragging is so good for the nervous system. Celebrations is a powerful act of self-love.
Yes.
Well, I brag that I manifested this motherfucking house by being so deeply aligned with my vision and also
Mm,
using sex magic and getting really, really clear on what I wanted to experience when
yeah.
I had that vision of creating a business and also a family simultaneously post-divorce with my new partner. I brag that I'm in the most delicious, delicious, heartwarming, just safest, expansive partnership with the most delicious human being ever in my lifetime that just continues to expand me, but also continues to push me to be my own best partner. I
Mm.
brag that I am a master in the art of self romance. Like I self romance the shit out of
Oh,
myself
yes.
over and over and over again. I also brag that this summer I'm launching Indulge, which is going to be a live group coaching course that is on the art of self romance. It talks about
Mhm.
self pleasure as a powerful tool for healing trauma and unconditional self love. I brag I have two wonderful children who are 20 and 14 years old. They drive me motherfucking crazy, but they are wonderful as fuck. I brag that I have wonderful, wonderful, incredible clients, as you beautifully mentioned, who continuously re-sign over and over again. Sometimes I'm like,
Ah.
y'all want to make some space for some new clients for me? And at the same time, I'm like, cool, keep it coming. I brag that I have been just deliciously writing on Substack lately, and that has been a
Yes.
place where my creativity and my artistry can flow without the fear of getting shadow banned or censored online because
Mhm.
Instagram loves to cock block my content.
Yeah.
I brag that I always find the most amazing and wonderful vintage nightgowns whenever I go thrifting and vintage shopping. And I brag that I'm fucking alive.
Mm.
I brag that I am deeply alive and feeling able to like stand in my body, stand at my working desk. Last year, I broke my foot, so I couldn't stand. And actually,
Yeah.
yesterday, I was thinking to myself, holy shit, I've stood to work for the last like 2.5 weeks consistently without pain and struggling. And I was like,
Mm.
I brag I can stand. And that feels really
Yeah.
amazing. And I don't know, I brag that right now there's like sunshine coming into my office, and that's really delightful and a wonderful
Yeah.
experience. And I also just like, I brag that right now that my life is in a place where, I just turned 40 years old last November. I went through a divorce. My ex-husband's not really present in the life of my kids and not really co-parenting with me. And my partner has really stepped in beautifully in that role to co-parent
Mm.
alongside of me. And I brag that like I feel like right now in my life, I don't feel so much of the pain of the divorce or the loss of the co-parent I thought I was going to have with my ex-husband. And that has been a long journey to get to a place where I can find just this feeling of inner peace.
Mm.
And it happened so quickly. Actually, it's so funny. It happened so quickly over the last 4 weeks when I really got back into my devotion of self-pleasure practices and
Yeah.
for like consistently as a devotional practice again. And I was like, damn it. I haven't been coming home to my practices and here I go, like going into my practices. And within 4 weeks, I could feel the cellular changes in my nervous system, like just being
Mm.
able to be present in my life right now of how good it is to be in this lifetime. And so, yeah. Oh, I also just brag that I'm a sexually empowered woman and a fierce devout mother because that is sexy as fuck to be able to say in one whole sentence.
Yes, it is. And I know what that feels like. And it's so good. So, yes, I hold and celebrate all of that with you. That's so beautiful. And by the way, we'll link Joe's Substack in the show notes along with all of her links. So definitely go and check that out. She's a beautiful writer. So much comes through in your words that are just like felt in the body and is really incredible. So definitely go and check that out as you're listening to this episode. Yeah. Okay. Last question before the last question. Would love to because I'm sure we can go on for several more hours. But we don't have that time. So I'd love to hear some of your, for the people who are, thinking about because in the air of like evolution and expansion, like, the past couple weeks for me has been dropping into the spirit of Magic Mind and allowing it to shift, allowing it to expand into this 12-month rolling structure, allowing it to deepen into more of my work and what I want it to be, right? Versus like, I mean, it always has been but even deeper every single time into what I want to create with this container and the beautiful souls I want to call into this container. And I feel like this current round that it's in and all of the beautiful women that are in it are feeling like the deepening of my work and my magic. And what would be some of your most beautiful and delicious takeaways from some of our work that you'd love to share with the
Mm,
listeners who are thinking about joining in this, during this launch and in this season as Magic Mind is expanding into longer term mentorship.
mm. Yeah, I think, one of the things that I have really loved experiencing in Mastermind, there's two things that come to mind. One of them for me is I have been really called to start sitting in a like sage seat of my life of like just
Mm.
I like to call it like elder in training. I'm literally sitting in the seat of like being an elder in training, right? Like this is where this is the journey of like a midlife woman. We're coming into our wisdom years, right? Like we are coming into our wisdom years. And so I've been able to experience being a person in Magic Mind that holds people really beautifully
Mm.
And for somebody that has been wanting to possibly explore that and to be in that place, like I feel like your container has really allowed me to experience that, especially with a couple of the people that are in there. They've been
Yeah.
coming to me as like sacred counsel about their stories and helping
Mm.
them get really clear on some of the most tender parts of their heart, which is really, really, really incredible and amazing. And then for me, I've been experiencing a lot of the support and sisterhood in there. And there's so many pieces as I'm moving through this part of my life. And for women who are in your 40s listening to this, you'll probably be experiencing or maybe experiencing the early parts of your perimenopause, which I know I've talked about in Magic Mind from time to time.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful to be in a container with other women whom, one, experiencing the instability and like unpredictable ways that your hormones can impact how you show up is really healing, because going into other spaces where maybe they don't have that same essence of witchery or spiritual, like you place a foundation of spirituality in your business and in Magic Bind. And so to be able to be somebody who's spirit led as a leader and also has the wisdom and understanding of a female body or body with a uterus and all of the other things that come with it, it's nice to be in a space where that whole aspect of who I am can also be held and
Mm.
supported and not judged. Right, like there's, I've been doing a lot of refinement of myself in Magic Mind, no longer trying to reinvent, destroy things and recreate things, but really refining and honing in.
Yeah.
And I feel like in the refinement aspect of things, there's a lot of like, am I doing this right? Am I not doing this right? And the fact that I can lean into people and ask those questions, get the feedback that I need to get things launched right away or
Yeah.
within, 7 days or whatever my timeline is, has been really, really powerful and useful to moving my business forward. And also been, useful for me as a CEO to be like, cool, I can be in a container where people just get it. Like, people just get
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, that's essentially exactly what I wanted to create through this container and what the spirit of Magic Mind stands for. I wanted this beautiful kind of safe haven of like coming home, not just to ourselves, but also one another in community, right? Like a true mastermind of like, let's support, like, I love you, I see you, I witness you, I'm here for you, I hold you, right? I can share, like we've all individually shared and bared some of the most vulnerable stories and aspects of our lives together. It takes a certain level of trust to be able to do that in a container, right? And that's also an aspect of business that I bring to the table in my teachings. Is it isn't just like content that's like a four-step method and just teaching and education, but it's bringing your story to the forefront. It's allowing yourself to share the hero's journey and also your clients' hero's journeys, and being able to do that together in communication and in community is so beautiful to witness. And so yeah, it's just been such an amazing, amazing round. I'm just really excited also to see how that grows and expand as Magic Mind expands too. So,
I'm so
yeah.
excited for you. I can't wait to see the new iteration of this thing that you birthed.
Yes, yeah, so good. Okay, well, Joe, thank you so
Oh,
much
you're
for
so
being on the
welcome.
podcast. This was beautiful. Please share with us, how can we connect with you? What can we drop in to experience more of your
Mm.
magic? Tell us all the things.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I just relaunched my website, so you can find me at joportia.com. That's JOPORTIA. I'm also on Substack, and that is thebougiebruja.substack.com. And of course, you can find me on the gram at I am Joe Portia.
Beautiful. And I will have everything linked in the show notes. So it's easy for you to click through, and a little bit more about Joe that you can read through. So definitely go and connect with her. Tell her, DM both of us, like, hey, we listened to this podcast episode. And if you desire to share it to your stories and tag us as well. And this really just gets out, our stories, magic, and message to even more women and soul aligned humans in this space. So, amazing. Thank you so much for being on.
Oh
Thank
my
you,
God, thank you,
everyone,
thank
for
you.
listening. Yes. And I'll catch you all in the next episode.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe. If this episode resonated with you, please take a screenshot, share it on your Instagram stories, and tag me at tiffanychung.co. I truly appreciate interacting with every one of you. Catch you all on the next one.